All right, folks. Trying to see if we've got a stream here. Doesn't look like we have a connection. Do we have a connection? I don't see any chat yet. All right, looks like we got a few people popping in here. Give it another minute to see if we need to reestablish a connection. Can everybody see or hear me? Okay, good. All right, well, today's June 28th, 2018, folks. And this is Joe Imbriano coming to you from Fullerton, California. I'm the Fullerton Informer, ladies and gentlemen. And, you know, I get a lot of questions. I get a lot of comments. I get a lot of emails. And I wanted to talk to you today about something that maybe, just maybe, you're not aware of. And that is what goes into our food, folks. Because, let's face it, a lot of us do not have a choice. We have to eat what's in the stores. Some people are very fortunate and they don't have to rely on the food distribution system for their sustenance. There are people that are self-sufficient that live in places where they can grow their food. But for the vast majority of us, myself included, a large portion of what we eat comes from these farms. Now, I just want to remind everybody to drink your apple cider vinegar with a little bit of ginger and cayenne pepper, and put some minerals in there, and get your body started the right way. And then when you feel the need, eat some good food that's going to feed your brain. Some good fatty acids and some things that are good for you. Things that are natural. And that involves not eating sugar, folks. Don't start your day out with sugar or any of these breakfast cereals that have been made by these companies that make the chemotherapy drugs and all the poison. We don't need to be feeding the fungus or the cancer or the diabetes or the obesity. Because let's face it, we all know, and if you don't, then you're going to know, because if you consume refined sugar or white flour or refined flours, it just turns into fat. And that's why those of you out there who are trying to lose weight, you can't lose weight. Well, if you stop the sugar, you'd be amazed what happens. Sugar doesn't belong in your body. There's nothing wrong with having an apple once in a while, folks, but we weren't designed to be eating 10 pieces of fruit a day, because nobody lives in a place where fruit grows 12 months a year and is always available in your backyard. It's not natural. I can tell you what is natural, folks, and that's eggs and vegetables, because they grow all the time. And you know, you do need natural sugar, and it's available in a variety of sources because it's in the plants, folks. There are complex carbohydrates in the plants that you eat, the vegetables. So you're not going to die if you don't have a watermelon today and a honeydew tomorrow and a bowl of that sugared cereal this afternoon and a Hot Pocket with a pastry strudel on top of it, folks. Anyway, I wanted to talk to you about a scam, folks, a deadly scam. It's called Biosolids. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of Biosolids before, but I will tell you that Biosolids are something that would shock you and horrify you if you really understood what they are. And once again, forgive the vibration and the bouncing. We're in Fullerton with third world roads, where the entire Fullerton city government belongs in jail because they refused to look into where all the $100 million went that was supposed to fix our roads. We'll be out of this city shortly once I go through one more intersection. Biosolids are something that has turned a trash pile into a treasury for a handful of companies. I'm not going to name these companies, but I am very familiar with what they do and what they sell and who they market it to and what fields and products it ends up in. Now, everybody knows when you go to the bathroom and you flush the toilet, it goes down the sewer pipe, down the sewer main, into the big manhole cover and under these big pipes, and it ends up at a sewer plant. the sewer plants, they do a couple things. They either clean up the water and reuse it, or they discharge it into an ocean after it's been treated to an extent. But the first thing that happens in one of these treatment facilities, water treatment facilities, is all of the raw sewage ends up in a settling pond where the heavy stuff floats, the light stuff floats to the top and the heavy stuff falls to the bottom. Now, I don't know if you realize this, but depending upon where you are, it's not just human beings that are flushing their toilets into the sewer system. You have industrial waste processes that are flushing their waste into the sewer system. You have metallurgy facilities. You have businesses, dry cleaners. You have all kinds of chemicals being flushed into the sewer system. And in these chemicals are heavy metals and toxins and all kinds of other things. So what ends up happening is these compounds end up floating to the bottom of these settling ponds. Well, what do you think they do with that stuff? Do you think they send it off to the landfill? No, folks, of course not. What they do with that stuff is they sell it. Because what happens is the water goes through a couple of these settling ponds, and a couple of times the crap will literally fall to the bottom, and then they'll take that stuff out of the bottom and they'll put it into a pile, and they'll use what's called a digester, and there's a few other steps that I won't get into, but the bottom line is we end up with this sludge. Now, there's a couple things that they do with this sludge after it's been treated and heated and allowed to somewhat decompose by microbial action that it's exposed to in these dome-like digesters that you can see at some of these treatment plants. But there's a tremendous amount of sewage sludge, which consists of human fecal matter, heavy metals, chemicals, medications that people pass through their bodies, flush down the toilet, and all of the medications that aren't metabolized by the people that end up excreted in their waste. You've got an inordinate amount of metals and drugs and poisons in this sewage sludge. And what they do with this sewage sludge is they pile it high and put it into, for lack of a better term, a type of oven, and let it cook off with some special digestive processes, including enzymes and microbial action, to create this super concentrated pile of shit, for lack of a better term, folks, because that's what it is. Now, what they do with this pile of crap is they turn it into pellets and products that are used for the fertilizer business. Now, do you know what happens when this stuff is sprinkled on the orange groves and on the vegetable fields and it dissolves? The roots uptake it and you eat it, folks. I'm telling you right now that biosolids are part of life. Now, that's something that ends up in the crops and in the fruits and in the vegetables. We're living in Soylent Green, folks. We're living in a matrix. And there are a lot of components to what is being done to us. These plants are all over the place. And you would be amazed at what is being dumped into the fields. Now, what can we do about this? Well, there isn't a heck of a lot you can do about this, folks. Because unless you control the farms, you don't control what goes into the food. Now, you can choose what you eat more carefully. You can choose to consume foods that appear to be natural and clean. And you know what you can really do, folks? You can eat a lot less. Because here's the deal. We don't be needing to eat all of these carbohydrates and these calories and all these toxic fruits and all these toxic vegetables that they're killing us with. You need to consume food in a sparing amount. You need to look into this, folks, because if the food supply is totally contaminated, then it would logically follow that we shouldn't eat too much of it. And quite frankly, that is what most people are doing, just out of habit. They're eating too much. They don't know any better. They're just being told, oh, you got to eat 3 meals a day and you got to follow this food pyramid, because the reality is the drug companies want you sicker than a dog so they can get you on their products, and the people at the top of the food chain, so to speak, want you in a pine box prematurely. That's a fact. So these biosolids are big business, folks, and you're not going to hear a lot about this because it's kind of a well-kept secret. Nobody really questions when people flush the toilet where all that stuff goes. They just close their eyes and it's like a magical thing. You never see it again, and it's out of sight, out of mind, and nobody seems to care where it goes. Although we pay for the services on our water bill and our property tax to deal with this stuff, the reality is it's kind of like gone once we flush the toilet. But it's not really, because guess what? It's coming back on our tables. Now, we can't stop this. And what's worse is a lot of places like Orange County are using this sewage water, and they're going through a couple of stages of treatment, and they're filtering it, and they're pumping it back into the aquifer. So they run it through first, second, and third stage treatments, and then they run it through reverse osmosis, supposedly. I don't know the full extent to which that all of the water ends up going through reverse osmosis before it gets put into the ground again. But with the vast prevalence of all of these people that are on medication and drugs and just pure unhealthy living, to think that we're drinking the water that was once their excrement is very concerning. So, my point is, we all need to be filtering our water ourselves, okay? Now, one of the things you could do to filter your water yourselves is very simple. Reverse osmosis water filtration is very, very, very inexpensive. You can get a good system for about $150, and you could say goodbye to all those plastic bottles. You could say goodbye to all the CRV you're wasting, because you're paying a nickel a bottle and you're getting back a penny if you recycle them. But more importantly, folks, you're in control of your water supply. That is really important. You're in control of the quality of your water supply. Now, when you do that, what happens is you have to make sure that you have mineral supplementation. Now, mineral supplementation is crucial if you're going to consume reverse osmosis water, because reverse osmosis removes everything but the water for the most part. The beautiful thing about RO filtration is it takes out the fluoride. It takes out the chlorine, the bromine, and the cryptosporidium, and all of the microbes and pathogenic organisms that could kill you, and the parasites that could kill you that could get into the municipal water. So you've got to have a reverse osmosis system. You've got to understand how to change the filters. It's very simple. You just need a little plastic wrench. You turn the thing, and out comes the filter or the element. You've got to take control of things that you need for survival. Now, as far as your food goes, look, if an apple is now the size of a grapefruit, that should raise an alarm. You should question that. You know, I go to Costco once in a while with my wife. I don't like going to Costco because it saddens me, because it makes everybody buy too much stuff they don't need. And when I go in there, I realize that we are really in a prison, and this is the commissary, because I look at everything that's in there, and it's packaged, and it's shellacked, it's sealed in a bag and soaked with fluoride water, and the fruit is just, I like to call it frankenfruit, ladies and gentlemen. When you go into Costco and you look at the fruit, and I'm not knocking Costco particularly, I'm just making a statement of an analysis of things I see when I go in there. You see things stacked to the ceiling boxes of all of these toxic sugared cereals and liquor and sugared cookies and desserts and processed this and processed that, and all of these foods that are literally designed to kill you, folks. And it's everywhere. It's at Sam's Club and Walmart and Ralph's and Kroger stores and Lucky's or wherever grocery store you go to. 95% of the stuff in there is poison. 99% of the stuff you shouldn't eat. I mean, look, the bread could sit on a shelf for what, a year and a half, and it doesn't get moldy. What does that tell you? I mean, a good piece of fruit that you pick from your backyard, if you cut that thing open and put it on your countertop with all the ethylene gas it starts giving off to its neighbors in the fruit basket, you're going to get mold start growing on that thing immediately. But this bread, I don't know whether it's made out of epoxy or they put arsenic in it, like pressure-treated wood, to keep things from decomposing it. But the reality is, the foods that are being fed to us by these stores are going to end up making us customers to pull into these drive-through pharmacies that are now dotting all the corners. But here's the deal. That stuff in Costco, those gigantic apples and those gigantic plums and things, they basically spend their lives connected to a tree, and the tree is shackled to a poison aquaponics drip system. If you went to some of these orchards, you would be in shock to realize how much chemical fertilizer and how much of these biosolids are dumped onto the fields and into these orchards. It is not natural for an apple to be the size of a young child's head, folks. It's not normal. I don't care how much water you put on an apple tree, these apples are being made into gigantic repositories of toxic chemicals by the irrigation and treatment of these fields with toxic chemicals, including biosolids. Now, what can we do about what we face in terms of what we're being forced to eat? Eat less, folks. Eat less. Eat less. And eat high quality food. Spend the money on good organic food. You can tell if, for example, a beet was grown on an organic farm. You want to know how you can tell? It's small, and its leaves don't look totally perfect and gigantic, because you know what? A normal plant or vegetable is going to succumb to variations in the weather and the irregularities in the watering patterns. Now, when you look at something that's been grown on literal chemical steroids, which is what a lot of these plants are grown in, you're going to see what appears to be perfection, when in reality, it's masking the toxicity. So, yes, you want to pick smaller fruits and vegetables that appear normal. Just like you would want to pick a mate that appears normal, folks. And if you don't like what I'm saying, it's too bad. This is just common sense. You know, you don't want to be involved with things that are gigantic. All right? And that involves these watermelons, that involves these apples, and that even involves some of these cuts of meat that are so laden with fat and gristle. And, you know, that's a whole nother thing. We really got to be careful, because meat is something that is overconsumed as well. We've got to be really careful, because meat is fed grains. These animals are fed grasses and grains and hay, and these are all grown in fields laden with biosolids, folks. And the fat cells are where a lot of the toxins, based on their chemical composition, are stored. I mean, these are fat-soluble compounds. The reality is that we're being killed from a lot of different directions. And, you know, I talk about the wireless, I talk about the vaccines, I talk about the water. But we've got to look at our food, because the reality is we're all eating food every day. God designed us. He gave us a mouth and a tongue and taste buds because it's an enjoyable thing. And there's nothing like, you know, a nice steak off the grill with some, you know, buttered vegetables and lots of salt and, you know, a nice piece of fruit to go along with it. I mean, and for some of us, you know, you may enjoy a nice glass of wine. You know, that's all good. But the problem is they've invented and created all of these products that are poison, and they're appealing. You know, they shine up the fruit like a new car. You know, they wax it with this shellac resin. And, you know, these animal feeds, you know, I've talked about the ethoxyquin, the Monsanto product that's in these animal feeds. And you know what? These animal feeds end up getting into us because we eat the animals, or we eat the compounds that are derived from these animals, such as the milks, the cheese, and the eggs. So, you know, all of this stuff is really important. We need to understand that all of these things have been affected by biosolids and chemical manipulation. And the sooner we begin to understand that, the sooner we can take back our health, because one of the things you'll realize is that too much of a bad thing is a bad thing, folks, no matter how you slice it. So, you know, just drop your portions and increase your common sense when it comes to what you're putting in your bodies. Now, I wanted to switch gears here. I know, you know, biosolids are something that you may not understand, but now you do. Now you know what they are. Now you know that they're real. You know where they come from. I want to talk to you about what I saw yesterday that really concerned me a lot. And that is, there's an epidemic right now of erectile dysfunction, folks. A lot of men have an issue with their libido. And I want to warn all of you men, young or old, that are out there right now. I want to warn you of these compounds that are on the market that will destroy your function. And it's a binary weapon system that has been deployed on men, unsuspecting men. And what it consists of is an agenda to basically end their reproductive abilities and to basically take the joy out of their lives and destroy their marriages. All right? If any of you are concerned about hair loss, I strongly suggest you do not take any of these products on the market, because these hair loss products that have been out for some time will make you have a complete loss of your sexual function, man. And there are other ways to get your hair to grow, like get out in the sun and eat a balanced diet and exercise and get off of all the dairy products. Because here's the other thing: the chemicals in the cow's milk, the hormones that are found in the cow's milk, if you're consuming an inordinate amount of dairy, and I'm talking about whey powder in these workout shakes, I'm talking about milk from the store, and you're taking these compounds to make your hair grow, you're going to get a teeny weeny, folks, and that's what's going to happen. Now, I want you to understand something right now. This is something that you may not be aware of, but the reason that they have allowed these products to stay on the market, these hair loss products, I'm not going to mention them by name. There are several that are on the market. Some have been around for decades. They will give you total loss of your sexual function if you're a man. And that involves getting this compound on your hands, and if it comes anywhere near your genitals, I'm telling you, this stuff goes right through your skin. It's designed to go right through your scalp. And the milk compounds, the compounds in the milk, the hormones and all the stuff that's in the milk work synergistically to elevate and exacerbate the disastrous effects of these chemical compounds that are used to treat male pattern baldness on sexual libido. It destroys your manhood, folks. You want to get your testosterone up? Then start getting involved in the good fight, folks, because your testosterone levels will increase when you start acting like a man instead of somebody sitting on a couch screaming at a television set, drinking a bunch of bone-dissolving Budweiser, and sitting there screaming at a bunch of guys running around chasing a piece of pigskin. I'm not knocking sports per se, but when everybody's manhood is wrapped up in how many cheeseburgers they can huff down and how loud they can yell at a bunch of guys running around on AstroTurf, I think we got a problem. When you wake up and start fighting for the real team and start fighting for your tribe and start fighting for your family, that's when your testosterone levels come back. And that's when your body starts becoming what it's supposed to be as a man again. Now, all these emasculating compounds, the soy phytoestrogens and the baby formulas, the soy milk and the tofu and the soy protein isolates, you know, those are all feminizing all the men. And then you've got all these compounds that are destroying the male libido. Look, folks, I could go on about this, but I'm just warning you guys. They're killing us. They're killing us with the food. They're killing us with the drugs. They're killing us with the Wi-Fi. They're killing us with the wireless. They're killing us with the fluoride in the water. They're killing us with the vaccines. They're killing us with this new artificial lighting. They're killing us with the sunglasses blocking out the UV that your body needs to survive. They're killing us with the air because they're going to 60 gigahertz Wi-Fi systems. That's going to affect the oxygen. I could go on and on and on, and I do every day. You got to limit the amount of food you're eating. You don't need to eat all this food, especially if you're living in a modern society where you're not out chopping 2,000-foot trees down with an axe. If you're not out chopping firewood and running marathons, you don't need to be eating all this food, folks. You could probably get by with one meal a day. And you know, if you did some homework, there's a lot of really heavy-duty, fit people out there that survive on one meal a day because they've trained their bodies. And what's happened is they've destroyed our bodies, folks. You know, they spray all these chemicals in the sky to modify the weather. The stuff comes down, the aluminum gets into the dirt, into the ground, into the air. We breathe it in, and then the microwaves from the cell towers and the Wi-Fi in our homes and businesses and public transit entities are irradiating these metallic compounds. I mean, look, we're under attack. So what we have to do is clean up everything that we do, and it's very simple steps, folks. I'm looking at the comments here, folks, and I want to tell you something. I'm not a Freemason, and I'm not into any of the Masonic aspects of society. As a matter of fact, I discussed them. Don't join the Masons, folks. It's a satanic organization. I'm not a Mason. And if you really want me to blow the lid on stuff, I can expose the password to the highest level of Masonry on the air, but I'm not going to do that because I don't feel like getting killed. But you know what? The Masons are a problem, and the Masonic lodges at the low levels, they seem like they may be nice people doing favors for society, but the reality is they're not. At the high levels, they're involved in a lot of stuff. But that's just one element of all this. But getting back to the point, the future's in your hands, folks. The fate of your health is in your hands. It's in your control. And everything is what you make of it. Everything's what you decide. No, I'm not a Jesuit either. That's funny. But you know what? I did go to Catholic school. And I was Jesuit trained to an extent because I was raised in a Catholic church and went to Catholic school all the way to high school. And you want to know something? All the priests were gay. Half the staff at Modern Day High School were homosexuals. And I didn't know it at the time, but in looking back, it's really tragic that the Catholic Church has become a repository of people in the closet that molest children. And there's a lot of pedophilia going on in the Catholic Church, and at the high levels, it's really scary stuff, folks. At the high levels of the Catholic Church is utterly satanic, and that's a fact. Do your homework on that, and check it out, because you can go to a Catholic church and you couldn't find a Bible in there if your life depended on it. And that's a fact. That is a fact, folks. If you go into a church and there's not a Bible sitting in there, you're in the wrong building, all right? So, anyway, you got to eat most of your foods raw. Most of your foods should be vegetables. You should not be loading up your cart at Costco with all this frankenfruit and all this toxic food, folks. You need to knock it off. And you spend an hour a day in the sun, looking through your eyes, looking at the sun. Go around and listen to the birds. Eat your greens. Get plenty of sleep. I know that's hard. I spend a lot of time trying to reach everybody, and I got to do a little better on my sleep. But, you got to go to bed when it gets dark and get the bluish lights out of your house. And, just pick small when it comes to your foods. No sugar, no lies. That's a great comment. No sugar, folks. The stuff is really bad. Popeye, he swore by spinach. The church is perverted and satanic now. Yeah, I agree with that. Smoke your weed. Well, yeah, I agree with that too, folks. If you like marijuana, go ahead and smoke it, because I'll tell you, I don't smoke marijuana. I don't need to really enter a altered state of consciousness. I'm very happy with the Holy Spirit and being in touch with reality. But, you know, marijuana is something that's been around for a long time. And while the marijuana that's out right now is not your granny smoke, so to speak, it's extremely strong, I can tell you that it's a heck of a lot better than drinking alcohol. If you're going to get buzzed on something, you're much better off smoking a joint than drinking a bottle of Jack Daniels, because the next day you're not going to feel like crap. And marijuana does have spiritual and medical benefits, folks. That's a fact. That is a fact. And if you're going to smoke marijuana, you don't want to smoke the synthetic stuff. You want to smoke the real stuff. Now, I'm a Christian, folks, and I don't need drugs. Now, if you do, that's your prerogative. But I'll be honest with you, you'll have a better, much better quality of life if you get drugs out of your life and you limit the amount of food, because food is a drug and most people are overdosing on food. And that is one of the reasons why they feel like crap all the time and they're not happy, because their body's really just under this deluge of toxins from the food. So, you know, try to clean up your diet. And of course, you know, most importantly, and I always go into this, get right with God. Have one of these little New Testaments and read it once in a while. And pray. And ask God for wisdom and guidance. And most of all, forgiveness. And put your faith and trust in Jesus Christ, ladies and gentlemen. And you won't need all these things. Your health will be better without the drugs. Your health will be better without the sugar. You won't need to get stoned when you wake up in the morning. You won't need to crack a beer when you wake up. You don't need to follow the advice of all these Hollywood people so you can live like the devil. You just need to clean it up and tone it down and just be free. Be free, ladies and gentlemen, because Jesus Christ will set you free. And he who is in Jesus Christ has wisdom and power and health and happiness. And let me tell you why. Because when your soul is doing well, your body follows. Now, we're not going to have 100% healing from everything, folks. I'm telling you right now, there are ways to change your life, and you don't need to go and spend a whole bunch of money. It's as simple as pushing a button and shutting off your TV set. It's as simple as putting something down that you thought about putting in your mouth. Here's a little saying that I remember a gal telling me a long time ago. She's a cute young lady when I was in college. And she told me that a minute on the lips is a lifetime on the hips. And you are what you eat, folks. So garbage in, garbage out. And that goes for what goes through your eyes as well. That goes for what goes into your ears, your eyes and your ears. They get into your brain and your body and your heart and your soul, folks. Don't feed your brain or mind garbage. Just keep your eyes focused on the truth, ladies and gentlemen, and the Bible and Jesus Christ. I'm going to cut this off, folks. The day is going to continue. And tonight we're going to talk about Alex Jones as Bill Hicks. It's going to be an interesting live stream tonight. We've got some information. I should be coming on between 9:30 and 10 o'clock tonight. And we're going to talk about Alex Jones again tonight, folks, because there's a lot of information we need to release on him. You folks have a great day, and in Jesus' name we go. Amen.